Good morning. Welcome to another episode of the DunnWisdom Morning Show. My name is Melissa P. Dunn. I am the CEO of MD Marketing Network and the founder of this DunnWisdom movement. So it is Winning Wednesdays, y'all. And this is when I bring you tips that will help you to become more successful in life and in business. So today I am tackling a powerful question that potentially could be something that's holding you back from fulfilling your greatest potential. The question is, do you procrastinate? Do you sometimes put off for tomorrow things that you could do today? If you answered yes to that question, then I want you to know that you're not alone. Procrastination is one of the biggest success blockers out there. So relax, get a pen and paper, and get ready to write down some of these tips that I'm going to share with you. Right? I actually, I struggled with procrastination quite a bit in my own life and have worked diligently using some of these tips that I'm about to share with you to overcome procrastination. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty good about getting things done, right? And I'm pretty consistent now with getting things done in accordance to the commitment that I've made. Sometimes and in some areas, I'm still struggling with procrastination. But for the most part, I can tell you that these research-specific tips that I'm going to share with you today will really support you because they supported me. So come on in. I want you to make sure that you type your questions. Winning Wednesday is meant to be an interactive conversation, right? It's meant to be the time that I share some tips with you, and then you type in the comments your questions and concerns so that we can kind of, have a great conversation together. The question that you have might be something that someone else is having. And I see that Miss Joy is joining us again this morning. Good morning, Miss Joy. Morning blessings to you as well. Good morning, Mom. Listen, Mommy is saying, you guys, if you haven't known by now, Mrs. Lopez is my mom. And she's saying, I used to be a procrastinator, but you started to learn how to use good time management. Time management is definitely that, Mom. But I would even venture to say that it's not so much time management as commitment management. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, so let's get into it. Procrastination, you guys, is truly a visceral and emotional response to not getting things done. I'm going to say that again. Procrastination is an emotional and visceral response to not getting things done. Now, I read an article in the Harvard Business Review that shared several different tips or reasons, triggers, why people procrastinate. So I want you to listen to these triggers, and I want you to identify the one that is most prevalent for you, okay? Hey, good morning, my Vice Mayor. I see that Vice Mayor Grant from the city of Lauderhill is joining us. Good morning, Vice Mayor. All right, you guys, so get your paper and pen, and I want you to write down these triggers. If any of them feels true for you, I want you to make a note of it, okay? So according to the article in the Harvard Business Review, the 7 most common procrastination triggers are: you find the task to be boring, frustrating, difficult, ambiguous, unstructured, or not intrinsically rewarding to you. And the 7th trigger is that you don't have, the task does not have a personal meaning for you. There's no personal connection. So I want you to think about those 7 triggers. Are any of them true for you? Now, I would actually venture to say that I would add a 8th trigger that wasn't mentioned in the Harvard Business Review article, and that is fear. Fear stops people from doing so many things all the time. So now that you've identified what your procrastination trigger is, let's kind of think through it, right? Let's reverse engineer that trigger and how it works. So let's say that you find a particular task, well, let's say that you find something to be frustrating, and that's why you're not doing it. Maybe you're supposed to do something at work, but your boss perhaps is someone who doesn't really know how to communicate well with you. And so the task, when it's presented to you, you feel frustrated because you don't have the tools that you need in order to do the job properly. Or let's say maybe even that the instruction that your boss gives is not clear enough. And so it's very ambiguous to you. And so you avoid doing that task. You avoid getting that task done. So identify what it is that you're feeling. Identify what your procrastination trigger is, right? So if it's frustration or if it's ambiguous, then the next step is to figure out how can you reverse engineer that, right? So something that's feeling ambiguous to you, how can you perhaps document the process or ask clarifying questions so that it becomes clearer to you? If it's a task, for example, that's boring, like, administrative tasks is not something that I love doing. Like, I'm not the girl that's going to sit there and do like a whole bunch of reports. I find it to be boring. But how can I make the task a lot more fun? Perhaps I could schedule a work group or a Zoom meeting where I'm on Zoom with my colleagues and we're each doing our work, but we can, still see each other, right? So perhaps coordinating a shared work day or a shared work hour where you're doing your task and your colleagues are also doing their task, right? So you gotta kind of reverse engineer how to approach and eliminate the trigger that's making you procrastinate, right? So the other thing you have to do is look at your resistance level. Is it possible, for example, for you to spend an hour working on that task or 30 minutes at a time, right? So one of the things that I procrastinate on is copywriting, and I'm in marketing. Copywriting in marketing talk is actually just writing words, whether it's for a commercial or for a press release. But words in marketing, as you know, is really critical, right? That's how you get to share the benefits of the product or service that you're offering with the community. So I typically procrastinate on writing copy. So one of the things that I've done, and the reason why I procrastinate doing it is because I perceive the task to be difficult for me. Remember, that was one of the procrastination triggers. So because I perceived copywriting to be difficult, I had to reverse engineer that process and make it so that it's not so challenging. And what I've started to do is I use an app where I could just speak and the app will then type out what I want. Speaking is easy in my mind. Speaking is very easy, and writing, not so much. So my way of tackling that procrastination trigger and reverse engineering it is to just simply use an app and speak. And then the app will type it out. And then later on, all I get to do is go back and edit. Do you see how that helps? And at first I do like for an hour, right? I just schedule a time first thing in the morning and get it done. So think about your procrastination trigger, reverse engineer it, and then kind of look at your resistance level. If you can do it for an hour, 10 minutes at a time, see what it is you can handle before you hit that wall, right? And just do it. And then, really and truly, getting started is really the hardest part. That's the hardest part, is getting started. So, guys, I have to tell you, all you got to do is rip the Band-Aid off and just do it. Just get it done. Now, a lot of times, if you can focus on the cost-benefit analysis for getting something done, it will really support you. For example, bill paying is a task that a lot of people procrastinate on for whatever reason, whether it's fear of not having enough money, fear of maybe it's a scarcity mindset, and so they avoid paying bills on time, and it's something that fills them with a lot of frustration and anxiety, so they avoid it, right? Procrastinate. And then, of course, when you don't pay your bills on time, it messes up your credit. You perhaps could get your car repossessed, or perhaps you can lose your apartment, you can lose your house. So think about the benefits as well as the consequence of not doing a task, of not getting something done. So obviously, using that bill pay scenario, the consequence is quite dire, right? But the reward is that it makes you feel good. You build your credit. You perhaps can, work towards your dream of home ownership. There's a lot of benefits. So you've got to weigh that, and just know that by doing something by not doing something, you're still making a choice. Do you get that? Everything is a choice, right? So kind of figure out what your cost benefit analysis is. And so that way, if you are going to say, listen, I'm just not going to do it, at least you're consciously making that choice. Next, disconnect. Turn off the Wi-Fi. Get off social media. Stop answering your phones or checking that email for that 10 minutes or for that half hour that you've committed to work on that task, right? Just disconnect. And finally, and for me, I think this perhaps is the most important intervention that I have used for myself, right? I started this next tip. And this next tip that I'm going to share with you is not a part of the Harvard research study, right? This is Melissa Dunn's study. This is something that I found out to be true for myself. And that is manage your energy. Energy management is a technique that works well for me, and it's worked well for my clients. So if you have a task that drains your energy, perhaps you might want to do it at a time of day when you have the most energy. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but if you have a task that you do not like to do it at the time when you have the most energy in the day. For me, after I'm done with this show, I have a lot of energy. And that is a time for me to work on something that I consider to be draining or that I'm procrastinating on, right? Because my energy is high, my vibration's high. And I really am least likely to avoid something at this time. I'm most creative right in this space, right? And so the last tip that I'll share with you is manage your energy, manage your commitment, not so much your time, right? If it's important to you, put it high on your priority list so that you can get it done. All right, let's see what questions we have going on, you guys. All right, good morning to you, Portia. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to watching the show again. And Mom says you're correct. I love it. All right, and the other thing too, sometimes that I've noticed for me with procrastination is when I don't do something, because I'm a type of person that I consider myself to be a pretty productive individual. For me, when I procrastinate on something, there's usually a reason behind it. It's sometimes just not the right time to do it, right? Like I have a course that I've developed and want to launch, and for some reason, I'm resisting launching it. And I've come to the conclusion that it's just not the right time, because with my personality, once I make up my mind, I just move. So for me, whenever I'm not taking action, it means that the timing is kind of off. So I always go inside of myself and kind of try to ask Source to tell me, what's off, what's stopping me from moving forward. And sometimes it's really a challenge in my approach, right? An answer to a problem that I didn't even know existed. And so a lot of times for me, procrastination is something that is a clue that I need to go inward and to ask for guidance. So that's a spiritual approach to procrastination that definitely was not in that Harvard Business Review article. But listen, it works for me, so I want to share it with you, right? All right, okay. Manage your commitment. Yes, I promise you, Mom, it will help you a lot managing your commitments. Do what's important to you. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Speaking of managing my commitment, I need to get over to City Hall, but I wanted to jump on this morning and share with you those tips for overcoming procrastination. If you found this to be helpful, if you found anything that I said to be helpful, please do like and share this video. The DunnWisdom Morning Show, as you know, is a passion project for me. And I would love your help in sharing it with the world. So share. If you're not already liking the show, like the show. If you haven't already followed us so that you may receive notifications. Facebook has changed their algorithms a little bit, so I'm finding it a little bit more challenging to get views. And one way to counteract that is to have more people like, follow, and share. So please get that done. And I will see you back here on Wednesday, where we're going to be spotlighting a Lauderhill business. Remember, be kind and loving with yourself. You deserve it.